to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today we are talking about personality traits, about recognize your own as well as understanding others, and how it's critical when it comes to having successful outcomes, particularly with our clients. My guest is Sharon Sherman. She's a fellow Jersey girl and the founder of Thyme and Place Design. Sharon has been a practicing, award-winning kitchen and bath designer for 40 years. She is a past president of the American Society of Interior Designers, New Jersey chapter. She was named the 2022 Innovator of the Year by Kitchen and Bath Design News magazine. Sharon has worked with every personality out there, and she is an expert at decoding and understanding why people react to certain situations the way they do. In this episode, we go deep into the 4 personality types that she has identified as fire, earth, air, and water. Sharon walks us through each one, explaining the beliefs and the habits of each and how to work with them best. This isn't about changing our personalities or being people pleasers. It's about working through challenges with resources and understandings that we have. As you listen, I want you to think about where your personality traits fall, okay? These are not hard and fast rules. Most of us are probably a combination, but with the dominant aspects, right? And as we grow and learn, we can change. But think about your traits and situations where you might have been triggered, because I believe this will change how you see things, react, and work with specific clients in the future. So let's see what Sharon has to say about these 4 personality traits, shall we? Hey, Sharon, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hello, LuAnn. I'm so excited to be here. I
I
really
am
am.
happy to have you here. I'm really happy. It's a long time overdue. We've been circling each other here in Jersey for years, and it's a little silly that it's taken this long to get you on the podcast. My problem, my fault, but I'm glad that we're here, Sharon.
I am too. We probably are about a mile away, but that's typical Jersey. We can live in the same neighborhood and never see each other.
I know. So true. So here's the thing. I love this conversation about how to deal with, challenging clients, okay? And how to deal with clients and going for successful outcomes and being in business, going on 3 decades. It's your own business, 21 years, but life experience in the industry. I know that you know a thing or two about this topic, and I love it. So one of the things is that you said to me is that you wanted to set the table on gaining an understanding of what do we mean when we say difficult or challenging client. Like, we're not just like throwing up the alarm here. So talk to us, Sharon, set the stage for that.
Right. So your idea of a difficult client or a difficult person on your podcast, right, is going to be very different from what somebody else's idea is, because we all approach people differently. We all approach things differently, and it depends on where we're coming from. And it doesn't just have to be clients. I mean, it could also be employees. It could be employers. It could be associated people that you're working with. It could be anybody that's out there, vendors, contractors. So I think it's really important to just kind of get an overall view that it's even beyond just what's a difficult client. I used to work in a firm where there was one person who wanted everybody that they knew was going to be a challenge, because there was something within them that needed to be able to come out the winner, right? That needed to be able to dominate that situation. And then there were other designers who's just like, okay, just give me all the easy people.
Yeah.
Give me the really
Yeah.
simple L-shaped kitchen, that wants basic appliances, that's just going to be happy. And, that's just personality traits within us. And I think it's important um, that if we understand our personality traits and what we bring to the table, it'll be so much easier to understand our clients, or assorted others that we're dealing with. And then you can see those personality traits. And hey, you drop a match on gasoline, it's going to really blow up, right? You drop a match in a pond of water, it's going to go out. So it really depends on what those different traits are and how you bring those into your daily life as well as your business.
So really what I'm hearing is there's technically, I would say, like, you can't say no such thing, but it almost sounds like there's really no such thing as a difficult client. It just sounds like a match that's not well matched,
Yes. And
right?
if I could teach intuition to people, I think
Yes,
the
right?
voice in your head that says,
Yep.
run in the other direction,
The
um,
inside voice.
that inside voice that we all have and we just don't listen to all the time. I've done it, right? I've done it.
Mhm.
And then, so I created a whole talk on how to fire that client that you've now hired, because you realize that it doesn't work. And I think that's what's super important, to just take a step back. As I always say, what I say, stay calm, cool, and collected, take a deep breath, and let's look at this from outside the direct situation of where you are. And, this is not anything I made up. This is all studies. When I was younger, we used to take sales courses, like how to sell
Mhm.
things, and designers hate that word sales. I don't know why, because I keep saying, well, if you're not selling your design service, you're out of business, because I
Right.
love the business of the business, right? And I think people are afraid of that. And we used to learn these things when I was going to these courses, which are really hard to find. And
Mhm.
so I just delve farther into it. And these are just things that I've developed through the years to say, what do you do with that person? I have a lot of clients. They are CEOs of major companies. They are hedge fund managers. They're high powered lawyers. They're uh, professional athletes. I mean, they're pretty type A personalities, but they all have these underlying traits that I think have helped me navigate, so that I have, knock on wood, I have a pretty good track record, with working with people, and even in trying situations to navigate my way through it. You know, life experience, yes. Learning these things, yes. My own gut instinct, yes. And that's where it's gotten me today. Like you said, I've been here for a while.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Well, I love it because you know that I'm like a student of sales since I'm 10 years old. And I love it. And the thing about it is what you said in there, I agree 100%. It's like the way I talk about it when I am talking about it in my real life is it's a movie. It's like watch the movie that's happening. Pull yourself out of it, pull your emotion out of it, observe the situation, and then start to get to the clarity on what's happening over here. And the truth is, sometimes when you observe the movie, the thing is, this movie isn't for me. I don't want to be here. And that's okay. But a lot of times we can make it work, or that's not even what I don't mean in deciding to take the client on or not. I think we have to very much honor our inner voice when we make that big decision to get in bed with somebody for that many months or years for a project. But I'm talking about during the course of a project when difficulties arise, and you know that you're aligned as two humans to be able to do this, but to resolve a problem, that's when we have to step out and detach and start to observe and see, and to, quite frankly, employ those sales skills that everybody is so like, I'm not a salesperson. I'm like, I'm sorry. I just spent literally the weekend with my 3 and 5-year-old grandchildren. You are a salesperson. Like I am
Yeah,
selling them on bedtime, on putting, pajamas on instead of, I mean, we went to the park on Sunday in pajamas because I wasn't willing to sell them on putting clothes on. I was like, whatever,
yeah,
let's go in your pajamas.
yeah.
I'm fighting my battles.
Yeah, and it's not a battle that you need to fight.
No.
Fortunately for me, I work with the world's greatest contractor, and
Mhm.
Randy is just innately good at this. He is
Mm.
innately good at balancing all the personalities that go into his portion, which is making my portion look really good.
Mm.
And I admire him for that because no one's taught him any of this. It's just who he is and how he perceives the world. And that's one of the reasons we work well together, because he's not willing to escalate stuff. And there's not a big ego that's involved with, I have to be right.
Mm.
And I think that is, that's really helpful. I think that's really helpful because look, clients make our world go round.
Mhm.
Where do we go without clients? We're out of
Right.
business. We are absolutely out of
We can't
business.
fire them all.
Sometimes we love our clients, sometimes we hate our clients. Sometimes we don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. And they probably can say the same thing for us. They don't
Right.
always understand why we're doing what we're doing. But, I think we just need to understand why everybody reacts to certain situations and they do. Like you said, you took your grandchildren to the park in their pajamas because you knew if you asked them to get dressed, they would have never had the positive outcome of enjoying a day out with you.
Yeah, I'll save that battle for when it's time to go
Yeah.
to bed. I don't
Yeah.
need to win all the battles.
Yeah.
But that's the
Absolutely.
that's the detaching the emotion out of it, right? If
Yeah.
I'm just about winning, if I'm just about I'm in charge, I'm the grown up, it's my way. And that's kind of the mentality sometimes, like you said, that Randy exactly does not have.
Right.
His ego is checked at the door, therefore he's looking for the solution. So my question to you, Sharon, is you mentioned that there are four personality types, and
Yeah.
understanding the four personality types does help us to probably process it and step outside of it. And obviously, each of us is also a personality type. So, where do we start? Do you start by helping us discover our personality type or just talking about the clients? Like, take me to the next step.
So I think the easiest way to do this is I've named them fire, air, earth, and water. And I've given them
Good
a
old woo woo
color.
girl.
Given them a color. So fire is red and air is yellow and earth is green and water is blue. And I did this as a workshop for someone and for a group. And it was really funny. The folks that stayed at the end, they said, you didn't really tell us where we fit in, but we figured that out. And then what their job was to interact with each other on a couple of questions. And they were like, wow, I really do see like when this happens, then this part of my personality comes out. And when this happens, that part of my personality comes out. And that part made this other person react a certain way. So it was really, really interesting. In one moment, she goes, oh my God, I'm half fire and half water. I'm canceling myself out. But I think, but they became observers. I think you used the word observer, right? They
Mhm.
became an observer and they were actually able to work within that observation to kind of make a decision about what the next step would be. Because everything I think I said to you, we move through life moving forward. And if you try to turn around and walk backwards while you're moving forward, it becomes much more difficult. So
Mm.
I think that you will see, and I'm going to be curious to hear from you what you think your kind of personality traits are. And if you see anything within this, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, when somebody does that for me, I react this way. So I don't think there's hard and fast rules of anything. And I
Mhm.
think as we go through life, our personality traits change, right? Because
Mm.
we are
I
the
would
sum
think
of all
that's true.
experiences. And maybe
Yes.
some things when we were young, we were cavalier or maybe we were really shy. And, you go through 20 years of life and that personality shifts a little bit. So the way you
Right.
react and the way others react to you really changes.
Mhm. So then do we go to the
Yeah, let me
4
tell you what they
person
are.
yeah.
Let me just tell you
Yeah,
what they
yeah,
are,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, think of fire. What does
Mhm.
fire say to you, right? Fire is explosive, it's determined, it's dominant, right? And I like to use the image of, that person that cannot help holding their hand over the flame just to see what it's going to feel like, right? I think that's probably the best visual that I can give. And I'm a very visual person. So for me, visual learning is all about it. Fire personalities, they're opinionated, they know everything. Don't tell me anything. I'm the expert in everything. They are not interested in excuses. So if something goes wrong, they're not going to be very forgiving. So, you know, don't find yourself making excuses. If you make a mistake, you say, I'm sorry, I really made a mistake. Right. Or I'm sorry, this went wrong. We're going to solve it. They want it now, regardless of the time of day. I have one of these clients, right? They text me Sunday at 7:30. I call it the Sunday scaries. You just sat down, you've had your whole crazy week. You sit down, you're flipping on, whatever TV, Ted Lasso, I don't know, and you got like a little cocktail, and all of a sudden your phone starts to vibrate, and you're like,
Oh.
oh. They don't care what it takes to get something done. They don't care what the cost is to you, right? Physically,
Mm,
mentally, emotionally, financially. They just want what they want. They want to make the calls and everything. And I have this client. I am living with this client, but I'll tell you about her.
wow.
I'm going to tell you about her breakthrough moment. They can wreak havoc on the project. They can create, when they do that, they also wreak havoc on everything else around them, maybe any other projects that you have going on, right? And I think that's really the toughest part. They even want to schedule everything. Well, I'm going away on
Mm,
this date and I'll be back on that date. And you're not allowed to work here. And why? And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
right. There's more people involved than you, sweetie.
Yeah, but not everybody understands that, right? So
Right.
what's the most important thing? And so you and I are of a certain age where we remember in advertising, there was the ad that said, never let them see you sweat,
Right,
right?
right, right,
Right.
right,
That
right,
is
right.
the prey, knowing that they've got their target. So always be confident. Like,
Mm,
don't sit back and say, well, maybe I did make a mistake. I'm not sure. Be direct. Don't go
mm.
all around the block saying, well, this has happened and that's happened and I'm not sure. Be direct. This is what's gone wrong. Okay. Something happened. We opened your wall. There's something in the way.
Right,
This is the plan of attack of how we're going to rectify it. This is going to be the cost involved. This is going to be the timeline that's going to be involved. And this is how we're going to manage it. We're going to start tomorrow. Are you good? Ready, go.
mm, right,
Focus on the deliverables, right? What have you done? What's the timeline? What have you put in place as a stopgap? I had a kitchen that was completely finished. I couldn't get a refrigerator. So my clients are like, now what are you going to do? I had a refrigerator delivered that afternoon. I said, so now you have a refrigerator until one that you
right,
ordered came in. And like,
right.
oh, don't be flip, don't be tongue in cheek. And I can be a little snarky. So,
Well, you're Jersey, like me. Come
I
on.
know, I know. So,
Right?
but I
I
work
mean,
all over the
isn't it?
country. So
I know, I know, I know. Don't you love it when they're like, "Wait, you're from Jersey, aren't you?" Like, "Yup." Like they like
so,
pick it out when you're in different parts of the country.
So I had a finite time to deliver at a conference, and I was trying to go through things, and I finally raised my hand. I said, "Okay, I'm really sorry. I'm from New Jersey. If I'm going too fast for you, raise your hand at any moment, and I will slow it down." And everybody went like this. So okay, I said, "Let's hang in here."
Woosa.
Um, that dominant fire person, they want concrete solutions, right? They're not going to react well to humor. They don't want you telling a joke. Um,
Right,
they
right,
can see it as a negative, which means that you're really not focused in on what's important for them. So I
right,
think those are the things, right? Be confident, be direct, give me the deliverables, and I don't want to joke about it. I want to know what's going on. So
right. I love it. So
those are easy.
I just want to recap because it's interesting because you were describing the traits of a fire personality and then you rolled into the ways to handle them. And I was like, oh, we're dealing with how to handle them now. So I
Yeah.
just want to say
Yes. I'm
that the
sorry. I
traits are,
apologize.
yeah, no, it's okay. So the traits are they're explosive, they're determined, they're dominant, they're opinionated, they don't like excuses, they want it now, they don't care about the cost to you, and they want to try and run the project.
Yes.
And the way you handle some of the tactics for handling this type of personality is to always be direct, always be confident, be specific in your solutions. Don't be snarky. Leave the jersey at the door and give concrete solutions, not, well, maybe, and I'm not sure. And literally, I'm in 100% agreement with you on the assessment on how to handle this personality. I love it. And I have to tell you, it goes back to your opening statements about, pretty much saying, this red flag, quote unquote, this kind of client, quote unquote, for one personality is a red flag and is a difficult client. But for another personality, this is like, this is a walk in the park. This
Yeah.
is how I like to function.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love that it really does emphasize. And that's where I know we're going to get to it, but I can't help but say it now. Knowing yourself is important because if you can't come to the table and do this stuff, then you probably shouldn't accept an agreement and go into a contract with a fire personality because
Yes.
it's going to be tough. So love it. I
So,
love it.
so here's the client story that goes with this. And this is a client I've worked for before. We did a small bathroom. Well, because we need to remodel it before we could do the larger bathroom. And he was just micromanaging everything. And I said, you need to stop this because my Tyler's going to walk off the job. You cannot
Yeah.
micromanage him. He knows what he's doing. And sure enough, we're now moving into the next project. And he's like, well, when is the Tyler coming? I'm like, well, that Tyler's not coming to your job anymore because you
He
stood
won't
over him
come.
all day long and he won't come back. So now we're moving into the next project. And he's one of those people that call me on Sunday night, and he kept texting and texting. And I finally said, I'm trying to take 2 days off, which I have earned and I deserve, and I'll speak to you on Tuesday.
Good for you. Yeah.
And then,
But that's the thing,
yeah, be
because
confident,
when
be direct,
right, exactly,
set
because
the
here's
boundaries.
exactly. So the thing is, so like what I love at the core of this is that you can say somebody can like say you get that text at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night or 7 o'clock on a Sunday night and say you're upset by it. And so maybe you reach out to a design friend and you say, I don't know what to do. Like, this is crazy. This client every Sunday night, blah, blah, blah. And you can tell the colleague can tell you the exact text that you just gave. But if you can't own that when you're in their presence and talk,
Yep.
that's why you'll say to yourself, nothing works with this client, because it's like you're doing the motions, but you're not owning
Yeah.
that I actually earned 2 days off this week.
Yeah.
I'm taking it.
Yeah.
This is important to you and to me. However, there are other things in life and they're not happening at 7:30 on Sunday night. Right. So, okay. Love
And,
love it.
and it does happen. I mean, he came back the other day and he said, I could have never done this on my own. Breakthrough
Right.
moment. To have that
Right.
personality admit that. Like, he wanted to order his own light fixtures. I'm like, knock yourself out, make sure they don't come in damaged. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, if I don't buy it, I'm not taking care of it. And he goes,
Right.
well,
Unpack
I
them,
don't want to
check
do,
them.
I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm buying your light fixtures. So
Right. This is what I want to see. This, I love this. It's like, it's instead of, well, I'm like, it's okay then, I'll buy them. Like,
yeah,
it's two choices.
yeah,
You do all of it or I do all of it. There's no
yes.
in betweening it.
Yeah, exactly. Focus on the deliverables. This is what's going to happen. So, so
I
now,
love fire personalities.
so our next personality is air.
Oh, air.
Oh, I have an air client. She hugs me every time she sees me. I'm so happy that you're here. Right? So your
What
air,
color is air again?
yellow. So
Yellow.
air, they're
Okay.
expressive, they're spontaneous, they're warm, they're friendly, they're puppies, they're kittens, and they're unicorns, right? That's what I think is really, really important to know. And that's the feeling that you get when they're around them. But you have to also know they want to hang out with you, right? They want, can we have coffee? You want to have lunch? Can we get together? And any designers that are out there, I know you have clients like this. So we'll call and say, what are you doing? Can I just drop by? Right?
Oh my gosh.
But they have a lot of trouble making decisions. Oh,
Okay.
yes, everything's lovely. I'm not sure. What do you think? Right? They're always welcoming to everybody. They're always appreciative of everything that goes on. They're always going to have coffee and breakfast for everybody. I just went out and bought bagels for everybody. Here's coffee. Come on in. Everything's wonderful. They're laid back. They're saying, oh, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be okay. But they might be the ones that also make that really quick decision and just say, it's going to be fine. I'm going to go with that. It's going to be lovely. And then they call you 2 weeks later and say, can we change the order on that? Whatever we just bought? Cause I'm not so sure that I did the right thing. Right. And they're also really understanding, right? They're compassionate, but they're determined. So I totally understand. I totally understand. I totally get it. I completely hear what you're saying. But when things go sideways, well, I really heard what you were saying, but look what it brought us to, right? So I totally understand, but I'm really not happy right now. So I
Yeah, I
think,
totally get it, but
yes, but so I think that that's something that is really important to understand with that air personality. So what do we need to do with an air personality? We're always going to be friendly. I'm so happy to see you too. Absolutely, right? They don't like confrontations. So always take time to explain what's happening, right? Don't be combative at all, right? And you know what? They trust you. So you have to take the time to chit chat. Hey, you want to come by and have a cup of coffee and talk something through? Absolutely. I'll come over to you. I'll grab some coffee on the way, right? Because
make a
now
gesture.
you're
Yeah,
making the
make a
gesture,
nice
but
gesture.
now you're also in control of the time, right? So
Yeah, I love
you're
it.
more than happy to come by and help them out with whatever that they need. And they're also going to trust you as the expert. So you don't have to give them a full-blown 4-page explanation of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you've picked this wood because it has this grain and it has this finish and using this. No, they are trusting you as the expert, right? And you have developed that sense of trust, and they value your trust and they value your experience because you are their friend, right? You're having coffee together. You're making time for them. You're hugging them just as they're hugging you. So those are, I love air personalities. I really do, because as long as you can come to their level and help them get through things, and without too much detailed explanation, show them, right? Show them what it's going to be like. Bring together that visual. Have everybody come together knowing that we're all working together for the best outcome for them. And that's going to be an air personality that you're probably going to be pretty successful with. You just
Mm,
have to know you're going to have coffee and lunch with them a lot, and they're going to be your friends. Which I have a lot of
yeah.
clients who have become friends. So, and
Mm.
we can never have too many friends, right?
Right. And the thing about it again, it's the reverse of the other, obviously. Duh, that's the whole point of all of this, right? Is that if you don't want to sign up for coffee and lunch and hugs and kisses, then, you know, say you're a great person. See you bye. Right? Like you
Yeah,
have to know that you're going to this is the way to have success with this type of client. And so understand that's going to be the path ahead. You can't say yes to this type of project and this client, and then a month from now go, my God, we're like having coffee and
yeah,
dessert when we come over every time
yeah,
again. It's like
yeah.
expect it and look in the mirror and go, yeah, I'm built for this, or I'm not built for
Yeah,
this.
and
Like
and
I'm not built for
appreciate
this.
and appreciate that time, right? Because how
Yeah.
many of us are
Right.
going all the time where it's kind of nice to come down to somebody's level and just say, okay, yeah, I want to hear about what's going on, and let's talk through this. For me, that's the client that ends up being my client for life. I do
Mm,
multiple projects for them. Um, Sometimes they call me and it's not always a monetarily rewarding situation, but
mm,
it's okay because they're my friends. And I just had
right.
this, I am remodeling a house for my neighbor right across the street. And I have done a lot of work for her, both in her business and in her home. And she's like, "Can I come over for just a few minutes? Can I?" And like, I'm screaming about it beforehand. And I'm like, "Sure." When she comes over, I have all the time in the world for her.
Yeah,
But I also know that, they're going to write a great referral. They're going to send their friends. They're going to, just sing my praises. So, that's the other side of all of this, that it is still a business and you want people that are really going to be happy with you and let everybody else know what a wonderful
that's it.
experience it was. That's what a testimonial is all about.
Right. There's more ways to be rewarded than just simply through
Yes.
the financial,
Yeah.
right?
And I
And
think we have to
as long
remember
as you're
that.
aware of calculating it.
Yeah, and we're in a people business.
Right.
What did I say? Clients make our world go round. Without them, we're
That's
no
right.
longer in business.
That's
So I
right.
think those are really super important things. And you should be wanting to know, at least in a residential business, maybe it's not as much in a corporate setting, but I think anytime you're in a residential type of business, you have to have a people connection with whom you're working for,
Mhm.
because you're creating sanctuary in their homes. You're creating their home is their hug and their handshake that they're
Mhm.
going to get from that home every single day, that's going to protect them and nurture them. You're creating that space for them. Even
Yeah.
if it's the guy who's touching the flame all the time, who finally
Right.
says, I understand now,
Couldn't
I
have done
can't
this
do
without
this. This is out of my realm. I've given up control. Like, thank you.
Yes.
I think those are two things that are super important to understand.
Love it. I love it. And then what's next? Earth or what?
Earth,
Earth.
earth, green, stable, grounded, long lasting relationships. Earth, your favorite pair of jeans that you just love to put on, that most comfortable pair of shoes that you are just so happy to slip your feet into. That's your earth personality. And hopefully, as I'm giving you these traits, you're visually coming up with those people, right? You can
Right,
see
right.
who those people are, right? Earth is, oh man, they're so cooperative. They love the team approach to everything. And they're going to work with you to make the process as smooth as possible. They really are. They're going to be that one who says, okay, let's all get together. Let's work this problem out.
Mm,
Um, they're really going to be supportive, right? They're going to look to you for your recommendations and your opinions. And it's probably, I have a lot of clients that says, I'm going with you. You're the professional. I'm going to go with what you think is right. Um, they're also the really good ones who are practical. Why is that? If you need to substitute something of an equal product
mm.
so we can move forward, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
all about it. Just don't give me a cheaper product, but as long as it's an equal product, I'm really good with that.
Yeah.
Um, so these people you cannot push, right? They're comfortable. They're a comfortable pair of jeans. It took a long time for those jeans to get to be that worn down, comfortable fit, right? Those shoes, they weren't really comfortable maybe the first day you put them on, but you've worn them a few times. They've molded to your feet. You cannot push them for decisions. You got to give them a little leeway. Let them know that, okay, I'm going to give you until this date. So think about it and make sure that you're comfortable with your decision, but I need to know what your decision is by this time. So you've kind of created that atmosphere of cooperation. Um, be firm with the deadline. Like if when Thursday comes and you've given them the Thursday deadline, you can't say, okay, I'm going to give you one more day. That you have to kind of say, no, I really need this by Thursday. I'll help you work through it. I'll give you some other suggestions, but we need to know by then. Um, always ask for their opinions too. Well, what do you think about that? Here's what I'm saying to you. How do you feel about what we're choosing or what we're looking at or what we're feeling or what we're touching? How do you feel about it? And I would say that you really should give them 2 or 3 choices and maximum, no more than 2 or 3. And then, help them see the disadvantages or the advantages, pros and cons, right? Show them the pros and cons of both. Okay, here's why you're going to love it. Here's why you're going to hate it. Let's talk about all these 3. What is your pain pleasure point and which is the one that you're going to find most acceptable? Um, always be patient and supportive and never drop a landmine on them. Never bring them down a path and then have it blow up, right? You can't spring them on something. Ease them into a situation. Just don't come in and say, hey, your whole back wall is infested with termites. Now we need to reframe the whole outside of your house. You've got to say, we've run into a situation. We have several solutions for you. I'd like to talk to you about what each of them are. There is a cost involved. There is no, whatever it is. And I'd like to walk you through each of the scenarios for your best solution. And that's why Earth people are wonderful people, right? They're going to work with you, and it's going to be a good project. I just finished an amazing project down in Montclair, and I had Earth people, and every
Mm.
day it was just like, well, this is just so amazing. And there's a question, and everybody worked together to solve it, and we're so happy, and we just love our space.
Wow, that's awesome. So both of the people that were involved in the project, the couple
Yeah,
or whatever it was, were both Earth
yeah,
people.
they were both a pair of comfortable jeans and great slippers.
That's awesome. I love these. It's so funny because you said at the beginning you were curious where I was going to hear about myself. I'm going to wait to hear what water is, but I'm, I've got my opinions here.
Just remember, one drop of water carved the Grand Canyon. So water, water is blue. Blue is analytical. They're going to be system based. Accuracy is
We
going
can
to be
stop right there. I'm
important.
not water. Okay, go ahead.
It's your navy blue suit.
Okay.
Right? It is a navy blue suit. So they're going to have an analytical personality. So what's the construction schedule? Can you put it down in a spreadsheet for me so that I can look at it and get a clear view of what's happening? Um, accuracy is really important. Human nature, people make mistakes. Just don't make a mistake on their job because that's not what they want to have happen because it's got to
That's
be in
so
their
funny.
spreadsheet for them to have a comfort zone with it.
Oh,
I have
God.
a lot of lawyers and a lot of accountants that, that I do
Yes.
work with.
Engineers
Yes,
too,
and
right?
engineers. And I have a creative
Yeah.
engineer. Poor guy is so confused. You, yeah, systems are key. And I know when I did a deep dive into my business a number of years ago, and we really talked about my ideal client, which is a fascinating thing to look into. And what I have come to realize my ideal client is, I totally get now. Tell me how you work. That's when I get that phone call. Hi, we found you, blah, blah, blah. Tell me how you work. What's your systems? And I'm like, I
Oh,
understand completely. Okay. And you better have a detailed answer. You cannot, we kind of, and I have for that person, I'm like, okay, this is our system. Here's the intake. This is what we go through. This is the process. Once contracts have been signed, this is what happens. This is the outcome. Everybody's happy. Which is the other reason I read every line of my contract to people, just in case they might be Navy Blue people. They're very serious about quality. Right, they're not really. They don't want something that is going to not be about them. So they're rigid in the way they make decisions, right? And they can be a little self-centered. right?
Mm,
I think
mm,
that's true, especially people who are detail oriented, right? Because
mm,
they need to be able to work with things that they understand,
mm.
and details for them is super, super important. Most things are about them and their project, so they really don't want to know you're working on another project because it's really about them. Um, and
So don't overshare like, "Oh, I just came from this great thing, blah, blah, blah." It's like, "No, let's just stick to me."
yeah, no,
Right?
no,
Yep.
no. And a delay at a previous project, which sets their project back, could be a real problem,
Oh,
right?
yeah, so
Because
that's not a good
tell
thing.
me
They
how
don't
you
care.
work. Here's the systems, but they don't
Right.
have that play in there of time. So, I mean, I have a way of describing how we start and finish jobs, which usually seems to work. So here's the one that you need to make sure that you understand. It's a very legalistic personality.
Mm,
Review everything, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure you've thoroughly reviewed the plans, the specifications, the contracts, the letters of agreement. As I said, I read every single thing with them.
right. We're not just
And
sending it by email and saying, "When you're done, sign
and
it
I,
by
I just
DocuSign."
had a client that said that to me, and I said, no, we're going to do it together, and you may not have a red pen. So that's, and she was like, I'm like, you'll be fine. um, I read each line right before I cite anything. So depending on the personality type takes on a very different meaning, right? So with a
Mm,
green person, I'm going to highlight things in a different way, right? This is really all
mm,
about us working together. This is really protecting the interests of both of us. With that red personality, this is going to be, well, here's how payments work. I can cancel this contract at any time based on if you go out and buy things, I still get paid and I'm not responsible for them. So the emphasis of how I read the contracts to these different personalities, which I've developed through the years, has been very helpful. So what do we do with a water? I love Ben Franklin. Do you like Ben Franklin?
Oh my
Um,
God, I've read his biography 1,000
oh my God,
times.
a failure to plan is a plan to fail, right?
Yep,
Yep.
yep, yep.
That's what you need to remember with these guys. Always be
Okay.
prepared and thorough. All right. Have more information than you need to give them. Give them information, and they're going to let you know if they want more or not. And if they don't want more, they're still going to be glad that you have it, but they might not need it at that moment. But 3 or 4 weeks down the road, they may say, can we circle back and talk about that again? I need a little more. I want to know a little more about. So
Okay.
as long as you have that information in your back pocket, if there's a question, sometimes they do it on purpose to see how you respond and how prepared you are. And I think that's important. Know your systems, right? LuAnn, you and I, we both think on our feet, right? We've
Right.
been doing it
Mhm.
forever. Um, you have to make sure you have all of the details, and you need to be
Mhm.
ready to be prepared with them, so that sometimes you have to discuss things ad nauseum, but be prepared.
Mm.
And, don't kind of pull a detail out of the air without knowing that you've got four more details to back it up. So I think with
Okay.
that water person, that's super important. Know the facts. I always say if a water asks you about the pros and cons of an appliance, you better give them everything you know and everything you can find. And if you think there's more out there, let them know you're going to send them the link so they can look it up as well, right? And they'll
Mm.
choose how much they want to read of that. Let them review, let them respond. If they want to know, I talk about cabinets all the time. So what's the difference between this and this? I'll give them everything that I know factually. I will give them everything I know from experience. I'll give them everything I know from my clients have said. And then I'll send them the links to give them more information, which then they can look at if they want to. Um,
Wow.
Analytical and wants accuracy, right?
Yep.
So those are interesting. If you get a fire that's got a little water in them, you're really in trouble. But some some parts of it, like I said to you, the one lady, she said to me, "Oh my God, I'm fire and water. I'm canceling myself out." But no,
Wow.
some of those details you can use to calm down that fire,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Where if you're an air
Mhm.
personality, you may be feeding the fire. Where if you're a water
Mm.
personality, you can use it to diffuse that just a little bit.
Mm. Interesting. It's so interesting. What I love is that it makes perfect sense, and I'm sure each of our colleagues listening, Sharon, you're hearing the descriptions, and you're hearing like the triggers. Like if you're one personality and you're hearing the description of the way you need to treat a different personality, if you just blindly do that to me and you don't know that that's not my, like, it's not even Like if somebody comes to me like with all the stuff in a water, oh, here, let me tell you every blasted detail and then send you links. Like I'm literally annoyed. I'm like, stop talking. I just ask, are we using this refrigerator or that? I don't need a degree in refrigerators, right? Like, and the thing is, what happens is what I'm visualizing is in the real life moment, I'm thinking about like when you're in the aisle at a, like when you go to buy a TV. Let's take that. Right. And it's the same analogy of if they're in your studio and you're talking about what type of cabinets to suggest or what type of appliances. As soon as you want to give me every blasted detail and I feel hostage by you, see, because if I'm starting a relationship with you too. So I'm not going to react in my fire personality day one, like, shut up. Right. But internally, I'm just like, no, I came here because you're the expert and you do all the work. And it's so funny because when you were going through it, I'm complete combination of fire and earth. Like I want all the things that fire wants. But as I was listening to fire, I'm like, but I'm not really that much of a hard, what anymore. I've really calmed down. And then when you were doing the earth things, I'm like, oh, see, I'm the earth. I'm like, if you're the expert, I trust you. Just give me two options and you do have to give me the deadline. Otherwise, I'll be doing 16 other things. Like it was, and if there's a problem, literally, do not just hit me with it. Hit me with, here's the problem and here's the three ways we can fix it. Pick your way. Like it's crazy. And
Isn't it?
I'm sure that every one of us was listening going, oh, there's me, there's me,
Yeah.
there's me, there's me. Right.
But how do you discover this, right? So this is what's
Yeah.
most important. And I wrote a really good article about interviewing a client. People always talk about clients that are interviewing designers, and I think this is your moment to put your discovery questions together in such a way that you can
Mm,
say, "What are you expecting out of the project? What are you expecting from me?" And I ask clients that, right? Okay, you want to remodel your kitchen, you want it to be beautiful, you want it to be timeless, you want it to have some trends in it, you have a budget. What do you want it to do for you? How do you want it to function in your home? How do you want to interact with me as a designer? What are your expectations? These are all the questions that you can really start to, to ask. And this goes back to salesmanship. I mean, I've
yep.
40 plus years I've been in this business, right? It's a long time, and I'm starting to look it. No, 40 plus years I've been in this.
You're not.
But if you understand how to speak to your clients and how to ask them questions and listen to what they're saying with this ear, and then in this ear, what is your inner voice saying? Because your inner voice is telling you what to ask them. Oh, this
Right.
sounds like somebody who might be really difficult, to which I would say, are you going to be flexible on a time schedule if something happens, what's going on in the world today? Are you going to be looking for a lot of paperwork? I don't produce a lot of paperwork. Paperwork, I think, can be wasteful of time and effort, but we do have systems that we put together. Um, are you going to need a lot of extra help to make selections? Are you going to be the only one making the selections? How involved you? And you start to ask these questions and you start to see who that person's going to be. And then
Mm,
by the responses, so they may ask you a question, the responses that you give back to them, you're going to see how they react to it. And you're
right.
like, now, can you learn this overnight? No, it's 40 years. But but it's really interesting if you start to sit and look at all of these things. And like you just said, I'm really easygoing, but man, I have expectations. So you can
Yeah.
have an easygoing person that has expectations and just know that as long as you stay with that client and you meet their expectations, you're solid forever. And I
It's the
think
truth.
that's what's important. And those are some of the things that I think we've lost. Just with our inability to talk to each other anymore. It's like talk to the hand. Remember that talk to the hand thing?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that I think is where you really kind of get into questions. So, you always have to stay calm and cool and collected, take a deep breath, right? Answer your clients' questions. In today's world, clients want to know that you're hearing them.
Mm,
They have lost control over so many things in their lives. And a lot
mm,
of this, now you're invading their cocoon. You're
mhm.
invading their safety. right? When you step into their home, what are you going to do to their home? So I think that they need to be heard. And you know what? They may need to vent every once in a while. That's why I have a group that I've worked with for 18 years. You should hear us. We have job meetings like, ah! But then we speak to our clients, and we'll
Right,
even
right, right.
diffuse sometimes on a job site. If something starts to get a little testy with something, then the other one will step in. I'm telling you,
Mm.
world's WGC, world's greatest contractor, Randy. We're just really good at that. And people laugh. They're like, "You're like a
Yeah.
married couple." I'm like, "Well, he's like the brother I always wanted and didn't have," or
Yeah.
yeah, we just are a really good balance for each other, which is super
Mhm.
important. And if people really want to yell at me, I'll say, you know what, it really sounds like you need to let it go. Let it go. I promise you I will not take it personally. And some people just need that moment and they'll start and then they'll say,
What am I doing? I'm being an
you know
idiot.
what? You know what? I'm sorry. I just needed to let that pressure go I'm under pressure from my kids, my wife, my husband, my partner, my lover, my
Right.
mother-in-law, the dog, the cat, my neighbor, whoever it could be.
Yeah.
You don't know what that is. So I think it's so important that you're not defensive when you listen to people.
Right.
And you need to listen to people. We've lost the ability to listen. Blah,
Mm.
blah, blah. What was it? Remember? So I'm going back to our age again. Remember the teacher on Peanuts, right? Wah, wah, wah,
Yes.
wah, 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 wah.
Wah, wah,
And
wah,
I
wah,
think
wah,
that's a
wah.
lot of what people feel that we've become. So I think if you know, your clients know you don't have control over a situation. They absolutely know that, but you are the one they're going to hold responsible, and they should because they are
Right.
giving you a lot of money and they are giving you their homes. So I think that you need to understand that part, right? You need to be understanding your client's position, even if it's completely unreasonable, and try to find a way through it, right?
Right.
Um,
I mean,
always
if it's not you, who? Right?
Exactly, because
Like,
you
I
are
mean,
their friends.
seriously.
What are designers? We're friends, right? We are entertainment. We are counselors. How many marriages have you counseled over,
Right.
what you do?
Right.
Um, you know,
But you're also ultimately the one that they hired.
that they
That's what
hired.
I'm saying. It's like,
Yes.
yes, the delays are not your fault, the this and that and the other thing, but at the end of the day, like, if it's not on your shoulders,
Who
whose
is it?
shoulders are they on? Like,
Yeah,
it's like you have to own it. But I love that what you were going through is the different ways to own it regarding in relation to the different personalities,
yeah,
because owning it the way a fire wants you to own it is not the way a wooder wants you to own it, or the way, and that is the key aha of this conversation here.
yes,
It's literally the reality of why, if anybody right now has a recent interaction with any client that went negatively, just now think about the different personalities, try and identify what personality they are. Probably you handled it from your personality. And if that ends up being true, then that is really a very foundational reason why the problem escalates, because you're handling something from your perspective as opposed to the way they need it handled, not because it was an unsolvable problem, but
absolutely.
because it's almost like, for me, it's like you're under my skin. Like if I just, it's, you're 100% right. The ways that things go down is, I think that's why I also, like, it's so funny because I do the interviews with the chairman of the boards, and I was not going to do chairman of the board this year. There got to be a point where I was like, you know what, it's busy. It's LuAnn Live this year. It's, we're doing new things at Lu University. I was like, Diana is on maternity leave. Kimberly was on maternity leave. I'm like, you know what, you're not going to do it. And I had this one conversation with this young woman, and it is, I'll fall over if she's not fire and earth too. I was just like, oh no, you see, I can talk to this girl. I don't have to. And I didn't know like this analytical thing about it, but I literally intrinsically just knew that I wasn't going to have to adjust any part of my core ways to be in order to coach her. And the thing is, in coaching, just like in doing interior design, you do consistently adjust the way you handle things based on what that person needs. And it's just, I was like, oh no, this one is going to be a fun. She's an outstanding lady. She has so many cool opportunities on her plate. And I was like, and I'm just going to show up as me every day and it's not going to matter. And so I was like, yep, would lose this one. It's
Absolutely, and
different.
and that's when I'll say to clients sometimes, like, I know there's a delay, but let's keep our eye on the prize.
Yeah.
What the outcome is going to be so amazing. And that's what you have to constantly bring people back to. But I'm also going to say, sometimes clients are just difficult, regardless of their personality traits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are never going to be happy. They can't help themselves. I feel sorry for them, but you have to always be professional. You have to get the project completed, you have to get paid, and you have to move on. But what
Mm-hmm.
I also say to people is look back, because I have this conversation with friends of mine. Look back on that client. Think about it. Were there warning signs? Right? Was there a problem with the
Mm.
budget from the first moment? Because if people, they'll say, you're so expensive. And I'm like, well, I just may not be the right person for you. And it's okay. I may
Right.
not be able to provide the project that you're looking for, but don't be angry about it. I can refer you to 4 or 5 other people that might be able to help you. Right?
Right.
Are there too many people on the outside telling what to do? Crowdsourcing is not good when you're designing your home, right? Because that
Especially
could
if
be
you're
it.
paying a professional to do it for you. What are you asking every other Tom, Dick, and Harry on your street for?
Exactly. Was there a lack of respect for you in your initial meetings? And I've said to
Yeah.
clients, "Why are you hiring me? Why do you
Yeah.
want to hire me? Because I'm going to bring to the table skills and experiences that you don't have." And if people are like,
Right.
"Well, I know everything," well, I'm going to just say, "I'm really sorry, my schedule is really full.
That's right.
Can we
I'm
circle
booked
back around in a year?"
forever.
I think, I always say the Will Robinson. Remember Warning Will Robinson? Oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm going back to all these TV shows.
Oh my God, you use all the same references I
You
do.
know,
That's hysterical. Pretty soon I'm going to be talking about the yellow pages.
did the and I've had clients call me and say, I really want you to work with me. I've talked to 5 other designers. I worked with 3 other clients. Everything was awful. I'm like, that's the Will Robinson moment where no,
Right,
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm booked until next year. If and I have also done, if you're friendly with competition in your area, and I do know some of the other designers in the area, I'll call them and just say, hey, did this person call you? And
Right.
invariably, yes. And sometimes they'll say, run, don't walk, or they'll say, yeah, we started working with them. And then it was just not, it wasn't going
Mhm.
well. So, and then it goes back to that thing. Are they a challenge or are they fulfilling?
Well, see, and I just want to stop you there for a second because I would just say that like I use the reference of chairman of the board. And the reason I use that reference is because it's the closest thing I have to what you guys do. I am working with you on the weekly, daily for a year.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the thing is, I don't, I think what we can do is we have to, as you said in the beginning, know who our personality is. But we also, if we know what their personality is and the ways to work with them, then I've never had this language. I never had these actual descriptors and the fire and the water and all of that stuff. I never had that language, but I've instinctively, as a student of sales and 40 years experience dealing with the public, right? What I'm saying is I know that internally the process that I want to make sure that the designers take away from it is the personality doesn't have to be like yours, but you have to be willing to show up in the ways that Sharon described for that personality. Right. And so it does. And that's why I think it takes away there are no bad clients. It's just, are you working in the mode that will come to success? Because if I recognize somebody is fire and I don't have the skill set or the, confidence to come back at a fire person the way they need, then I should not take a fire client. However, if I'm not fire, but I can stand up and do fire and I can show up and in those ways that Sharon outlined for fire, then go ahead. And the only thing, the final analogy to the chairman of the board, what I was making is I have had chairman of the boards in all the personalities. And without having your list, I've always known that, okay, here I need to come this way. I need to have the facts, or I need to have the thing, or I need to be, hey, let's talk about like our life for 10 minutes before we get into it, whatever it is. But when I want to do it, with no, like, I don't have to game face for this. I just show up. And that's what you want to figure out for yourself as a designer. You can take all the personalities as long as you're willing to show up in the way the personalities will respond to. And when you just really just want something to go easy, then find the one that fits you the right way. Right,
Yeah,
Sharon?
and you have to determine your level of tolerance. When I
Right.
was
That's
30,
exactly it.
my tolerance level was completely different than it is
Right.
now that I am a lot older.
100%,
You know, so
100%. I
what's
could
that
never
challenge?
have taken
No.
a water personality. Like I can tell you, I can go back to the years with Window Works, and I would be in there. I always call them engineer brain.
Yep.
I'm in the appointment 10 minutes, and I'm just like, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
you're an engineer. And so what I would do is I would wrap up as quickly as I could, and I wouldn't even bother taking measurements. I'd sell the job because I can do it.
Yeah.
I would, make the adjustments, but I would say to the engineer, I'm going to have my partner come back and do the final measurements. Oh, because Billy is also an engineer brain.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and you guys can talk about the brackets
All
all
day long.
day long.
Yeah.
Oh, what kind of bracket? You goes, I don't know, dude. The kind that keeps the drape up. Like that's the kind, right? But I
Somebody said
know.
that to me about screws. What kind of screws do they use? I said the ones that are gonna
Yeah,
make the cabinet fall off the wall. I don't know.
exactly, exactly. But the thing is, I have to follow it with, however,
Yes.
my installer,
Yeah.
he cares about the brackets
Yes.
just like you. And we're going to bring him over. I've literally done that. Billy, come close the sale for me
Yeah.
because I can't even like get in this head
It's just, and
space.
it's out of your wheelhouse and it's out of your want, right? And that's what I
Yeah.
just did. And I'm sure you can even you can move these things into people that work for you or that you work with.
Yes.
You can see
Hmm.
how you can absolutely collaborate with this person and not with that person, and what's going wrong, right? So you have to decide for yourself or for your company. So if you're an employee, you have to decide for yourself. If you're an employer, you have to decide for your company, right?
Hmm.
What is your definition of what a I hate to use the word difficult. I would just, there's got to be a better word for it, but difficult just jumps in everybody's brain, right? What level are you willing to go to satisfy that client? And that,
Hmm.
in the end, I think is the key takeaway. Decide what your company's definition of a challenging client is, and what are you willing to do to satisfy that client? Because sometimes you might have to, if necessary, you're going to have to offer an alternate situation that may cost you money, but it's better to fix the situation than have a compromise, than have a legal problem, because that is
Hmm.
just going to be long lived. So you really want to be able to close the book and move forward and have a great testament and be able to photograph the job and enter it in design contests and win awards and have everyone tell you how wonderful you are,
Hmm.
and that's what it's all about. It's all about the client experience. And I think we as designers always have to keep that in mind. Employees, subcontractors, vendors, associated people, it is all about the client experience, and never more so than in the world that we're in today.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, I think this comes down to, it's part of, like you said, you did the work several years back to really deep dive into your ideal
Yeah.
client. And that is it. It becomes, do I want to work with all types of people, all types of projects, or does everybody like, it's like when you hire out of your culture fit, it's this sort of same thing. It's like I've had people that work for us over the years that were highly analytical, want precision in everything. And that's great when I've hired them to do their work. But when they come to me and they want that same sort of thing, I'm like, no, sweetie, see, that's not my highway. That's not my highway. And so what happens now is, in the beginning, I would ignore that culture fit. And then I'm rubbing, and we're going against each other. And now, as a mature person, like you said, you look back, you learn your own lessons, you learn yourself, all the things. When I have to hire somebody for an analytical position, I do two things. I give them real clarity how necessary they are, because it's not my wheelhouse, but I don't place them next to me. Like they don't report to me. I don't, feed to them directly. I put somebody in between them that will support them in all of the words and all of the ways and all of the deeds that makes them, because me, I'm just like, like, no. So there are ways to be successful in this, but it does take the consideration. And to your other point, that was where I was going. You also can just say, as a firm, these are the kinds of projects and the kinds of people. You maybe a firm only wants, air and earth people, or air and water. Maybe that's what that's the point. That's the ideal client, because especially if you're a firm that's taking, maybe 6, 8 projects, bigger projects a year, like, you're going to work with 6 groups of, people, and 3 of them are you're working against what's your natural nature in a personality point. That seems like, ugh, right?
Yeah, I
So,
agree. And I think that is a lot of the burnout that a lot of designers are
yeah.
experiencing because they're afraid to say no, like fear and love, right? Two most powerful emotions that you can possibly have. So you want to love what you do and you're afraid, you're afraid to say no. So it makes
Mm,
you not love what you do, and it makes you tired,
mm,
and it makes you lose your connection to the thing that you are most centered to want to do. And I think that is something that's super important. And
mhm.
when I've had client designers come back to me and say, I heard you speak at blah blah blah, and you talked about, it's okay to say no, it's okay to turn a client away, and I did that and I was so scared, but I got 3 more of the most
That's it.
amazing clients that came through. So I didn't let fear overcome my love for what I'm doing. And that
Love it.
is the most important thing to know, right? Never bemoan the door that closed, because you're going to miss the 3 others that just opened. And I think and that's hard to say, LuAnn, we couldn't do that when
Yes.
we were younger, when we were starting our businesses, right? That was really difficult. You're grinding out, you're trying to get work, you're trying to make things go, you need the money to support what you're doing. And I think that's what really wears us down. And that might be why you got out of your original business that you were in to get into design, because you've always loved design, and now you're back on that same hamster wheel of, I hate this. And that's really what I think these little things like this conversation are so important, because I really do think it helps people understand, we are all people, and we all need certain things, and we can have those things as long as we are strong enough to take care of ourselves and our clients
Mm,
and our employees and everybody else on my team. It's a team effort. You are a
yep.
team effort. You're a total team effort. You're the
Mhm.
epitome of let's say, the poster child for a team effort. And
Right.
whether you're a team of 1 or you're a team of 20, it doesn't matter. I
Right.
think those are super important details.
Well, I have to say, there's the one thing you just said in there is like the cap of all of this is, be strong enough to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. It's because if you're strong enough to take care of yourself, then the clients will be the right clients. The people that you work with in your extended team will feel loved and supported and cared for. And everybody, it's like my cousin Eileen Hahn. She's always talking about being in her joy and being in love, loving what she does. Like, she's an absolute riot. She's the one human on the planet that literally wakes up every day and is literally in love with life. I Every single time I call her, I'm like, how you doing? She goes, loving life. I'm like, you sure are, lady. Because this is what it is. She is what you just said. She's strong enough to require that her life is what she wants it to be. And you can do that. You can craft your client portfolio to look the same way.
And
I love it.
you'll be happy, you'll be
Yep.
successful. And I think that's what we're all trying to be, right? We're trying to be happy, we're trying to be successful, and just comfortable in who we are and what we're doing. And I think that is the key.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness, this was amazing. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I love, like I said, when you group together the different traits of the personalities and, of course, the ways to work with them. One of the greatest joys of this podcast for me is, in these, 1,000 conversations between the two podcasts now, is having words for something that I intuitively understand, right? And it's like, I never could have explained it the way you could have explained it. I never would have been able to identify it the way you identify it, but it's validation. It's like, oh, that's right. That's why this works. That's why that is that way. And I think it's just so fun to have something so concrete to now look against and really do some analyzing. And I would love for each of us, everybody listening, to just take their current client roster and kind of see if you can find the traits in the people, figure out your own traits, see if maybe you can adjust some of your tactics in the ways that you approach your conversations, and watch like all the agita just slip away, right? Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe you had guessed it before I gave it away, but yeah, I'm a fire. Right? Shocking, I know. But I have earth in me too. And I love how Sharon described these traits and reframe some things that maybe might seem difficult or off putting, but when you put them into these types of with the understanding, it's you get it. It's not good, bad, or ugly. It's switching your mindset from thinking like good, bad, or ugly. Like this is a difficult client. This is a red flag client. To just like, I just keep pouring, gasoline on this fire here, right? Don't keep pouring gas on a fire because the fire's just going to keep getting crazier and crazier about it, right? So it's understanding what is the way through that personality that you're working with can hear and understand and come to agreement with you at the table. Okay. So did you figure out where you fall in all of this? We probably each possess a little bit of all of them. And that's probably why it's possible for us to kind of actually, to some extent, work with every other type of person out there. Okay. I mean, us fire personalities, we're not going to be fiery all the time. I mean, not all of the time, right? But when you do encounter a fire personality, for example, being able to recognize our triggers and having the language and the confidence to speak and reason with a fire as well as hold your ground with them, yeah, that can work wonders. Absolutely. Okay. So the other thing is just because you might have the ability to identify the different personalities and you might learn with some mastery how the best way to work with each is, doesn't mean you have to work with every personality. And truthfully, I would say you probably shouldn't, not for the deep level of engagement your design projects take. Right? That's why you have client intake forms and discovery calls so that you can qualify your clients first. So, and if you don't have systems set up for this, I encourage you to go back and listen to the episode we did with Haley Colby. Episode 808. We'll link it in the show notes. But Haley had some great points when it comes to vetting inquiries, spotting quote unquote red flags, and also attracting and identifying your ideal client in those inquiries. Another show that's helpful in this area is episode 848. Amy Youngblood talked about identifying your ideal client with the contact form on your website. These are easy first steps to lay some of the groundwork for identifying these personality traits so that you're prepared, right? And if you aren't ready to work with a fiery type yet, okay, be sure to have questions in there asking how they feel about timelines, deliverables, agreements, and flexibility. I'm just saying, okay? Now, for smaller term projects. And I'm thinking here of my window treatment colleagues about this, right? We don't tend to have the same degree of high touch engagement or the multiple month engagement that you interior designers do, right? So we do need to have a thorough understanding of how to handle each of the personalities, right? For long-term projects like design projects, identifying the personality that you might want to opt out of working with, declining their job, that's a thing. But for short-term projects, yeah, you need these skills because you're not going to, turn away 5 projects because you're looking for the other fire personality like yourself or the other water personality like yourself. You need the skill set to identify and deal with them, okay? I'm sure we've all had challenging clients, even if we thought they were going to be great at the outset. But what I don't want for you to do now is say, I'm only working with an air client or whatever, or I'm never working with a fire, right? Because We all have the combinations, and what Sharon is trying to teach us is that when we recognize the traits, we can adapt how we do things so that everybody is in flow, okay? I love also that Sharon reads her contracts through with her clients line by line. This is an aha in itself possibly for you, but the thing is, what I love is that she reads it together so that no one can say that they weren't aware of something, number one. But also the important aha here is that while she reads them all word for word, she reads them differently depending on the personality type, emphasizing specific points to the types of personalities that need to hear the things that address the parts that she thinks are going to be difficult for them as they go through the process. Right? So you have an earth client, highlight that this is about working together and protecting the interests of both parties. Fire client, be direct. Here are the deliverables. Here's how the payment works. Water, underscore the systems, the specifications, the details. Okay? So this isn't just about the client, right? It's about us. It's about what do our own traits and triggers tell us about ourselves. This is how we can affect how we react to different clients. And as I said to Sharon, I'll bet most of our problems aren't because our clients are actually difficult people or because the problem was unsolvable, but more it's because we only saw it from our perspective and tried to handle the situation from our own personality perspective type. Okay. It's 100% okay to have non-negotiables in your business. I encourage that all day long. But having the empathy and the way through to explain our non-negotiables in a way that the other person can hear it, that's the key that we're talking about here. Okay. I had Laura Martin Bovard on the show a while back, episode 762. While we didn't get into personality traits, we did talk about identifying clients and working from your soul, not just from running your business from your ego. It's a good lesson because, of course, we will align with some people better than others. And there are ways to attract the types of people that we do align with better. And that does start with your intake forms, okay? But recognizing, just as design is transforming a space, we are also in the midst of transformation too. And these traits can complement each other in certain ways. So, don't always be quick to discount an inquiry too quickly, okay? Sharon did a great job explaining each personality type and how to work with them, so I'm not going to rehash that all here. All right, you can check the timestamps in the show notes to go to each one. All right, so I love it though. It's fun. This is how you get to hone your sales skills. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, whether you want to believe it or not, being a designer includes being a salesperson. It's as simple as that. Right? I've talked about it here on this show and on my Window Treatments for Profit podcast about our exciting Windows Make a Friend 7-step sales process. Jessica Harling teaches this course over at LuAnn University, and it is such an excellent tool, and it fits right in line with Sharon's teachings today. You can learn more about this by going to episode 740, where Jessica talked about the 7-step process. You can also, she will be at LuAnn Live in November. You can speak to her and talk to her there. We will be doing LuAnn University this January again. Okay. And also, we are going to run the 7-step program live in Philadelphia, September 27th, 2023. You can join us for that. We don't have the registration open for it yet. So just keep an ear out. And if you're on my email list, you'll find out about it. Okay. So remember, to resolve a problem, any problem, you need to step back, detach, and take your emotions out of the equation. When you observe it like this, like that movie I said, you can start putting those skills, those relationship and sales skills into place. All right. I hope you found it helpful today, this conversation. I loved it, Sharon. Thank you so much. You gave us words and understanding for things that are important, especially for us in our business relationships. Thank you tons, Sharon. And thank you for being here, wherever you fall on the personality spectrum here. I appreciate your showing up. Thank you for listening. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Niagara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNiagara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.